Hello, welcome to the program. Ahead, Eddie Maguire tries another hot seat, taking on the Triple M breakfast slot for Oz Stereo in Melbourne. Can he challenge 3AW's domination? A makeover for the Weekend Australian. Plus, Pacific launches Prevention. OK gets a new editor as rival Who launches a new ad campaign. But first, from billboards to shopping centres, outdoor media has delivered great growth, but it wasn't spared the ad spending slump in recent times. So what's the outlook for the sector? Well, to tell us more, our co-host James Manning, editor and publisher of Media Week, is here. And we're joined this week by Richard Herring, the CEO of APN Outdoor, and Mike Tyquin, the CEO of Australia and New Zealand. It's great to have you in today. Thank you so much for coming in. Firstly, I think we were just working out that between you both have, about half of the market tied up with your two businesses. Richard, if we could start with you. I mean, obviously, the outdoor sector, like all in the media, wasn't spared in the recent ad slump. What do you see going forward, though?
No, sadly, Bridie, it wasn't. Look, I think the sector's been affected pretty much like most other media sectors over this period. And certainly it's been a very difficult, 6 and probably 9 months, in fact. But we have seen some good, solid bookings in the last 6 weeks or so, leading into the last quarter, which would make us think that, the stability is going to be there for the last quarter, and we're feeling quite good about that. Certainly we know where we're heading was probably 3 or 4 months ago. It was more difficult to pick.
And Mike, what's your views?
Similar patterns to those that Richard's business has seen, although with some variability by segment for us. We're represented in a couple of different areas, such as shopping malls, which have been relatively spared some of the sharpness of the downturn. Obviously, retail spend, as we know, has held up broadly pretty well in the Australian economy, and that's actually supported that part of the business reasonably well for us over the last year.
The sector's had, I think, 6 years of pretty dramatic growth before it all slowed down. You hear about the financial community had a lot of people who never worked in a slowing economy. Was that similar with you guys? Did you have to sort of retrain or refocus some of your staff who were maybe newcomers to the sector?
I think it's probably true of the whole media sector, buyers, sellers, those in creative agencies, and also a lot of marketers. It's a pretty young industry in terms of average age of employment, and that's not just in, years, but also in maturity and experience. And so it's very much a trend that we've seen during the year, and something we have had to actively manage throughout the downturn, James.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's been a fascinating part of the business because you're quite right that, we're probably 2 years ago we were talking about Generation X and Y and putting in baristas and yoga mats at lunchtime, etc. And, it's been a big change for those people, and certainly our businesses have got a lot of those types of people in the business. And, it's been exceptional the way they responded to the conditions and adapted to it and supported the understanding of what the business is going through. And, it's been a great success, I think, to see the resilience of these people in these times.
And looking too, at the outdoor sector as a whole as well, just comparing it to other types of media, both traditional and new, I mean, do you see it as having benefits over those, especially in downturns?
Of course, Bridie. I think we do. I think it's, it's got a great uniqueness about it, and some of those characteristics I think will have it in good stead going forward too. But, the fact that it doesn't have content, I suppose, makes it quite interesting going forward in that our advertising and audience is relied pretty much on car traffic and pedestrians. So, there's a great future for the business going forward. So we feel very, very good about it.
How cyclical is the year for you guys? I mean, do you looking forward to a strong end as a lot of people do well in the last quarter of a calendar year? Is that the same with outdoor?
Typically, that'd be absolutely true for us. Out of home is obviously a medium that requires people to be outside of the home by definition. And as we move into the warmer months of the year, we know some things are true. Australia's a very mobile nation, very high rates of car ownership. When you move into some of the other out-of-home environments, shopping malls and airports and some of those types of places, they do start to come more into their own as we get into that holiday period. Christmas retail gives us a bump, a number of factors. So in an ordinary market, absolutely we'd look to Q4, and I'm feeling somewhat better than I was a few months ago about what will be calendar Q4 in any event anyway.
And your thoughts, Richard?
Yeah, look, I think supporting Mike, I think the summer period is very, very interesting for outdoor. When most people's normal media habits do change, television, etc. Outdoor actually blossoms in that time, and we've done some interesting research recently that would suggest that that people are going to stay at home more than traditionally. So I think they call them now staycationers. So they'll be actually staying home for their vacation as to going away. So you know, and the fact that they're out and about much more is a great thing for outdoor over that period as well. So it should do the industry very well over summer.
Mike, what are you seeing in terms of national campaigns? Is that something that's quite common, or is the sector sort of more suited to more localised campaigns?
Unlike some markets in the world, the US is the one I'm particularly referring to. We're very fortunate, or advertisers are very fortunate in Australia, that most of the major out-of-home and outdoor formats are really well represented across all the main markets, the capital city and the regional markets in Australia. So the penetration and coverage that national advertisers can get through out-of-home is very, very strong. It's, we believe very from a cost perspective, very affordable, great value for money. So there's no reason why a national advertiser now, and this is what we do see in our business, and a very high rate of participation by significant national advertisers reflects those factors. So our business, particularly the iCorp business, is very, very much centred around those large national advertisers, brands in many cases that people would recognise, and also that use other media, which we know is also a strength of out-of-home as well, that ability to move across different mediums and integrate out-of-home into their thinking and general marketing communications.
Richard, for a lot of media, direct business is held up better than agency sales. Do you have many direct people in out of home, or is it usually just big national advertisers go for it?
It's certainly the lesser proportion, and probably on supporting some of Mike's comments then, that's probably the rationale why. But we do have quite a vibrant direct market as well, and which we see as an opportunity going forward. And I think on the back of the the types of clients that we have, we're one of the unique characteristics is also that local part of outdoor. In that if you want to get to a specific geographic area of a city, outdoor is one of the few medias that can also provide that, as well as that national coverage. So the flexibility across different client types and requirements of clients is a great positive for the business.
What would you say, I guess, to advertisers thinking about using the medium? I mean, looking at this, does a call to action work, or is it mainly for looking at brands, or what do you think, Mike?
Out-of-home can do a range of things that it couldn't do a few years ago. So we've got some fantastic broadcast properties, particularly in the roadside environments, billboards, transit assets such as buses and trams that APN Outdoor are very strong in, for example, versus some other formats now that are more niche, more narrowcast, more audience-specific, some of the things that we do at ICE, such as airports and shopping malls and universities. So there's really a broad array of assets, whether they are, as I say, broadcast or more specifically targeted at individual audiences. I made a reference earlier to the fact that our retail business has held up really well in the last year. That's been about its ability to be able to do things that are more tactical and really target those retail offer-based activities that advertisers have looked for in the last 12 months. So that's where we see the strength of the sector moving to, and it's that breadth and diversity that it can offer advertisers is really becoming it's a real strength for it.
The sector has a very strong association, probably more so than most, with the exception maybe radio. What sort of things bond you guys together, and then what sort of things, don't really come up and
I think
in those meetings?
It's been an interesting development probably over the last 5-6 years, James, and I think that probably one of the key things is the fact that all of the CEOs are represented on the board, so it's at the very top level. And I think there's a great level of understanding that probably wasn't around in the industry maybe 10 or 12 years ago, that at that level we do need to work together to support our industry. And obviously after leaving that room we'll go out with the appropriate amount of competition that we should have in the market. But at a certain level we need to act together that will be in the best interests of all parties ultimately. I think there's a great commonality of that understanding in the industry now, which is really support a lot of the implementation of a lot of the initiatives that the OMA have been involved with.
Can't obviously let you go without asking you about Move, the new audience measurement system. What's the latest with this? When can we expect to see it?
There's a massive amount of data interrogation, and just marrying that with the system development and the methodology going on at the moment. That's obviously being done principally through our industry association and some work also with the Media Federation, who've been a key stakeholder in the project since its outset and inception. The board are now considering launch timetables among other factors, so we're feeling very confident about the system and its robustness and it being able to do the various things that we want to do. It's not, I don't think, for Richard or my place here today to make a comment on behalf of the industry about what will happen in terms of a launch, but I think certainly from the eye perspective, we're feeling particularly encouraged by where the system's now at and what it will deliver on spec as it was designed to do for advertisers going forward.
We keep hearing 2009, it's the year's starting to slip away. Do this is still a possibility? And I'm hearing things like there's some big challenges about the various parts of out of home, and street furniture in particular is getting that nailed. Is maybe something that's slowing it a bit. There
are, James, and the complexity is quite amazing compared to other media, in fact, and you know, the number of different environments and just the asset numbers is quite extraordinary. I think we're very focused on getting the right outcome, although, and obviously it's in our interest to get this thing out as quickly as possible. At the same time, we want to make sure that it does serve the purpose in which it's intended, and that is that it is accurate and provides the information that we wish for it to be provided. So we're balancing the accuracy and the completeness of it with the timeliness of it as well.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but it's been great to have you both in today. Richard Herring, CEO of APN Outdoor, and Mike Tyquin, CEO of Australia and New Zealand. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brody. Thanks, James.
Well, Goldman Sachs' JB Weir has upgraded the Aussie media sector from hold to positive. It's now tipping a 9% rebound in ad revenues in the 2011 financial year. Chris Weston from IG Markets has more.
Certainly, if you look at the media space before the open of the trade today, we were underperforming. The media sector was down 2.4% against the actual broader market, which was down 1.1%, which I guess on one hand isn't really surprising given the perception that we're going to have a pullback. So traders in this case would usually sell high beta cyclical names ahead of some of the more defensive names. But also the fact that we also, these stocks are very highly leveraged to the economy. And we should see the GDP number yesterday come out slightly better than expected, up 0.6%. So that's probably lent a bit of support. And if you look at the stocks today, they are outperforming the actual market. So they're paring back some of these losses that we have seen. Actually, very much really to do with what we've seen from Goldman's, who are one of the more optimistic or bullish brokers on the market. They've actually upgraded the media sector today to a positive stance from a hold stance, and that's certainly putting some life back into these stocks. Very much to do with the optimism surrounding some of the key metrics that they're seeing with the economy. They've also upgraded the advertising revenue for these stocks for 2011 by 9% from 7.2%. Now, if you actually look, two stocks they've actually placed onto their conviction buy list, and that's 10, which is up 5.7% today, and also Seek, which is up 2.9%. So that's a very bullish statement on these stocks. We've also seen APN upgraded to a buy recommendation. That stock up 3.9%, and Ausstar up the same amount. That's also been upgraded to a buy recommendation. They've also kept two stocks as a sell recommendation, so it's worth noting that Seven, which is flat on the day, and WA News, which is also down 2.8% on the day, being kept as a sell recommendation. They've stipulated that they prefer these stocks with strong franchises, strong earning momentum, and good business models over the weaker ones there. But certainly, from my perspective, if you are buying into these stocks, you are buying for a longer-term view. The earnings aren't going to increase overnight. You're looking for 2011, 2012. But sometimes it does pay to get into these stocks at the bottom of the curve before the rest of the market does. So you can see the optimism from Goldman's really spreading into these stocks, and they're up very strong today.
Stay with us. Coming up on Media Week, all the news from the print, radio and TV sectors. Well, time now to turn to some of the other news out of the media sector this week. Freeview Chair and ABC's TV boss Kim Dalton's told the Sydney Morning Herald that free-to-air broadcasters are going to launch an on-demand streaming video service to TV screens. Seven is spending $50 million rolling out a new 4G wireless broadband network in Perth from March next year through its Vivid Wireless subsidiary. News Magazines has launched Prestige Living, a new ad group bringing together its design, home and lifestyle titles like Vogue Living and Country Style. Network 10's restructured its sales team to make the most of its stellar ratings this year, with CEO Grant Blackley to provide direct leadership and Vance Lothringer continuing in a part-time consultancy role. 10, of course, though, searching for someone to fill a new position of Network Integration Manager. And finally, Petra Buchanan has been appointed the new CEO of subscription television body Astra. She takes on the role early this month. It comes after Deborah Richards retired after 12 years in the job. There's plenty of other news around as well. Let's get the views from James Manning, editor and publisher of Media Week magazine. James, major changes at the Weekend Australian coming. A pretty exciting new look for the Weekend Australian's magazine.
Absolutely. they're reformatting the Weekend Australian magazine, the colour magazine that's been around for quite a while now. There's a new editor, Steve Waterson, who was formerly editor of Time Australia till they sort of closed down the local edition. They're also turning the review section into a standalone magazine. It won't be just newsprint pages. It'll be a separate little magazine, and then revamping a lot of the paper. And the changes are also going into the weekday newspaper as well. There's going to be new world news. There'll be what are they doing? Arts and entertainment pages, an extra page of Wall Street Journal news, which a lot of people will enjoy. And it's they're committing a lot of resources, a 12-month media campaign to promote the newspaper, and Zenith Optomedia is the agency booking that.
Great. All right, just to the magazines. Now, we've seen Who magazine refreshing its campaign across multi-platforms.
Sure, yep. It's in a little niche with OK magazine, Who. They're sort of not at the tabloid end of the market. They claim they're a bit of in a special spot. Haven't been doing too badly with circulation and advertising revenue, and they're pushing Who Are You as their campaign. They've just refreshed that, haven't gone with the totally new thing, and that I think it's out now actually.
And just quickly as well, we have seen with rival OK magazine, the new editor confirmed, as you alluded to, Claire Isaac.
Yes, yeah. Claire worked at the magazine. I think she's one of the founding members. Came across with Kim. They both worked at EMAP Australia before the launch of OK. Claire actually took voluntary redundancy earlier this year, but when Kim left, they looked around for a replacement, and Claire was the best candidate.
And staying in the magazine sector, you were at the all-star launch of Prevention magazine, Pacific's new title, last night.
Yeah, it's finally, well, it's not out yet, but they launched it to the trade last night, had a lot of advertisers along. Amanda Keller, Guy Sebastian sort of looked after the official duties, and a couple of executives from Prevention talked. It looks great, the magazine. I think we'll probably have someone on next week to tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, definitely. So out Monday, I believe. Now, just in the radio sphere, another $1 million payday for Eddie Maguire with this new breakfast show, also launching Monday.
Yeah, very clever to launch it on Monday, because it's a 2-week ratings break, so all the other shows are going to be on holiday. So if your regular hosts aren't there, and Eddie's going to be talking it up, everybody's he'll be on air in Melbourne, so a lot of people might sample him during those 2 weeks. So it's a good move. He said this week he started at Triple M probably nearly 20 years ago, just on $20,000. He's certainly come back for a lot more these days. He was just doing sports updates back then.
Interesting. He's brought over or poached some talent as well for the show.
Yeah, he bought the. If you want a producer, what the best thing to do on paper, anyways, you go and look who's the #1 show. So he's done that, and he's gone and stolen their executive producer, which was 3AW, Joe Mueller. When he told them what was happening, they said, "Yeah, okay, but you better get out now." So he had to leave that day. But yeah, it's a great move.
What chance do you think he has of taking on the domination of 3AW in Melbourne?
We attempted to say something like, well, for Triple M, the only way is up, but that's always dangerous because they actually could go a bit lower. But eventually he'll definitely get some traction. Just about how much you'll get. He's calling the show a bit of an AM-FM hybrid, so we'll be stealing some of the best bits of 3AW, some of the best things FM radio can offer, like the music and the strength of their signal, and turning it off him. But he's also going to cover politics, and he's calling it the hot breakfast, so he's going to be hoping to be breaking lots of news. Yeah,
interesting too, just at 3AW anyway, Rex Hunt's still in contract negotiations, but also in radio too, we did see Dicko go to pretty extraordinary lengths this week for DMG.
Yeah, he was on the stage at the Village Green, just dressed in a G-string cowboy hat and cowboy boots as part of a stunt the station had. Something you will never get Eddie Maguire doing, I'm sure of that. But that's what you've got to do in the FM market, to pull these stunts and keep your brand up there, and connect with your listeners.
Yes, very brave man. All right, let's just have a quick check on what we saw with subscription TV ratings for week 35. Well, NRL and AFL games pretty much make up the top 10 most watched shows. The most popular was the Titans versus Dragons for Fox Sports 2. Turning the page, and On the Couch, 10th most watched for Fox Sports 1. James, obviously we just mentioned a little earlier there, Astra getting the new CEO, Petra Buchanan. Just interesting too, in this space, Foxtel's made an undertaking to ACMA about screening inappropriate content.
Yeah, it's a bit amazing, isn't it? That's one of the attractions of subscription TV. You thought that you can watch, a lot more content that's unedited. It'd be adult, you don't have to be too worried about your parental locking system, things like that. I mean, one of the shows that got pulled up was something called Naked Wild On, which is a show basically people take their gear off in nightclubs and they're filmed doing it. So some narc sat up at night, watching this show and then bothered to complain about it and send in a letter. It's crazy.
And just staying with this as well, AFL, of course, hoping that Fox Sports is going to pay up some more for the AFL TV rights.
Yeah,
no surprise there.
Yeah, the AFL was sort of spruiking. They were hoping to get $1 million, which was a lift of more than 200,000 on the last rights negotiation. They've sort of realised after some initial talks with the networks that, hey, that's certainly not going to happen. They're hoping they might be offering a Thursday night or a Monday night extra game as part of this package, because there'll be a new team coming on over the Gold Coast. They're hoping that they might get this money from Fox Sports. Fox Sports does very well with Monday night NRL.
Now, just quickly as well, a lot of new local productions starting up as well. There was a launch this week of Showcase's new drama Tangle, and we've also got Mick Malloy's Jet Stars on Movie Extra on Tuesdays, and also Andrew Denton's 30 Seconds. That's been pretty much awaited, hasn't it, by the industry? It launches on Monday.
Yeah, it has. There's some great productions in the subscription TV sector at the moment. Yeah, 30 Seconds. It's good. They've got a few people who are in Underbelly. So, yeah, it's a very funny show set in an advertising agency. Yeah, that's going to do very well, I think.
Appointment to viewing. All right. Now, the results of week 35 of the free-to-air ratings season so far. 7 has all the top 5 shows this week. Packed to the rafters, 7 News Sunday remaining at 1 and 2. Airways there entering the top 10. Better Homes keeping its 5th most watched spot. 10 Page and ABC One, Spicks and Specs at number 10, preventing 7 from a clean sweep of the top 10 shows. A lot to talk about here too. Interesting though that we saw some politicians getting onto some of these big rating shows. We had the Deputy PM, Julia Gillard, on 5th Grader, and then also these reports that the Premier of Queensland could be starring in the new Celebrity MasterChef.
Yeah, I think there's only about 7 people in Celebrity MasterChef, or it's not a lot of contestants anyway, and one of them just happens to be the Premier of Queensland. So yeah, it's a very good get, I think. So at least the ratings in Queensland should be pretty good. I don't know if the rest of Australia will care, but it's just good someone in sort of that power. She says she's going on to help promote the state, you know, promote their produce, and she'll be cooking with Queensland ingredients, so it'll be great.
And what did you make of Julia Gillard's performance on Rove's show?
Well, it was pretty good. I think there's been a bit of a media blitz for Julia Gillard lately. She's in all the weekend papers, and I guess that was sort of to coincide with the ratings didn't do great, though. I mean, people still aren't warming to politicians on their TV screens. It hadn't been screened for 2 weeks, 5th Grader. I think they did about an extra 60,000 people. Hasn't been a terribly successful season for the show, though. And yeah, Gillard did a little bit of a lift, but not a lot.
And it was interesting to see Nine's big star, Kerry-Anne Kennelly, on one of 10's big hits, talking about your generation.
Yeah, Kerry-Anne would have liked to. I think she's often pitched to get a primetime show. She finally got one, but it was on another network. Did very well. She came on dressed up as Crystal from the show Dynasty, with Amanda Keller dressed as who was it, Marilyn Monroe, and the two of them were in the Baby Boomers. Yeah, it was great, and the show did pretty well. That's finished now, of course. Taking its place next Tuesday will be the Spearman Experiment for 10. It'll be interesting to see how that goes with Magda Sabansky. Yeah,
sure will. Interesting too, as well, these reports that the audience isn't warming to the new Idol judge, JD Springbett, because what the producers have sort of been saying is that the contestants are really liking his feedback. But what's going on here? Is it just a matter of give him a go, give him a chance to?
Well, it's a few theories. I mean, I think the series is about 7 years old now, and a lot of people think he wants that 7-year itch. Audience is starting to get a little bit sick. They are sick of the format. We saw that with Big Brother. You know, you have to do something special. A lot of people like the edginess that Kyle Sandilands brought to the program as a judge. Some people could argue Dicko's not quite as volatile and as, you know, with punchlines as he used to be. The judges are all a little bit, maybe, you know, a bit softer. So yeah, I think it does need something to spark it up a little bit. You know, there's a few great contestants this year, and the judges don't have a lot to do now either for the rest of the series. They've done their sort of hard work. It's up to the viewers to vote now. So it's really these performance shows. They start this week. People start eliminating. See, 10 will be really hoping that those numbers will pick up.
Definitely. Interesting as well, because we saw a couple of the networks announce sponsors for a couple of major events coming up as well, including Celebrity MasterChef.
Yeah, we were sort of right. I think we said Celebrity MasterChef was looking for a fast food sponsor. It turns out it was McDonald's. They'll be one of the sponsors, and also Coles are going to be one of the sponsors in that. We haven't got a start date as yet, but I think it's going to be on Wednesday nights, and it'll probably be the second last or the last Wednesday of the month.
And for the World Cup as well, sponsor there too?
Yes, yeah. SBS released a few names this week, and they've, yeah.
Great, excellent. All right, now just turning to Hey Hey, it's Saturday as well, one of Nine's good old stalwart shows, and these specials coming back. Nearly all the old favourites will be on.
Yeah, two people who won't be there. Jackie McDonald's not reprising her role as a co-host with Daryl and Ozzy, and Molly apparently hasn't been allowed by Channel 7 to come across, but it's understandable. And why would you let one of the people you have under contract go up against your marquee program, which is, it'll probably go head-to-head with Packed to the Rafters. Still a bit of a surprise, it's Hey special, but it's actually going to be on a Tuesday night, so I'm not sure how that'll go, but it's probably Nine's worst night of the week, so that's why they're slotting this show in there, to see if they could spark that up a bit.
Interesting too, now just looking at the free-to-air digital space as well, we've now got a little bit more of a look now at the ratings for Go, Nine's new digital channel, and I think we can show you the top 10 shows on Go. Now the top one there was Wipeout with 169,000 viewers. Just take us through what we're seeing now and how Go's comparing to some of those other free-to-air digital channels like 1HD.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different ways you can count these figures too. Some people are averaging the number of times a show's been on during the week. So like Big Bang Theory had a lot bigger audience on the Sunday night than they have on that figure there. The interesting thing about it is it's shown how many people are actually watching ABC2. That's been doing very well with The Wire, Junkyard Wars. It's been having the most watched shows out of all the free-to-air digital broadcasters, partly because it's been on for so long. It's been broadcasting for, don't test me on, but it's well over a year anyway that's been on air, and the audience has found the channel, they've sought out the shows. That will eventually happen to Go, and you can see these figures jump up. Speaking to someone from 7 last night, still won't confirm when they're going to jump with their new digital channel. They've convinced it'll definitely be this year. It's all been signed off by the board. It's just up to David Leckie now to pick a time to flick the switch.
Okay.
Apparently they've got all the programming locked away.
Entertainment focus, do you think?
Well, yeah, surely that's what it'll be. But yeah, there are really not many details yet about exactly what the...
James Manning, editor and publisher of Media Week. Great to have you in, as always. Thank you. And from the team here, thanks for your company.